now I'm happy to introduce James Sargas, Executive Director of Open World Program.
Thank you very much. Hello, good morning, and welcome. Happy Friday to our Open World virtual program focused on the sister city relationship between GrantsPass, Oregon and Rubtsovsk, Russia. My name is Jane Sargas, and I'm the Executive Director of the Open World Leadership Center. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you here today. As we navigate these difficult times, it is the center's goal to remain a catalyst for engagement and collaboration for inspiring leaders like yourselves. Our hope is that today's program will inspire you and encourage further collaboration, not only between GrantsPass and Rubtsovsk, excuse the pronunciation, but Russia and the United States as well. I would like to extend a special thank you to our local host organization, the GrantsPass Sister City Committee, and all of the great speakers they've lined up for us today, including Mayor Sarah Bristol of GrantsPass, David Owens, President of the GrantsPass Sister City Committee, Ludmila Starchenko, President of the Rubtsovsk Sister City Committee, Sulaya McDougall, Chair of the Committee on Public Art, and Tony Mccomb, Urban Forester from GrantsPass City Parks. We appreciate your time and the effort to make this program rewarding for your Russian colleagues. I'm pleased to welcome you all here today and grateful for our Russian delegates for choosing to participate on the Open World program. We look forward to the day when we can welcome you all here in person, and I wish you all a productive program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Now I would give a floor to our partner, is Joe Dean, Program Officer at the FHI 360.
Thanks, Rustam. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us during these interesting times, especially for such an interesting program. My name is Joel Dean, and I'm a Program Officer at FHI 360. FHI 360 is a global human development non-governmental organization. We work in more than 60 countries. In the United States, one of the programs we're most proud of is Open World. Hopefully, I'll be meeting some of you in DC when you hopefully travel here in the future. FHI 360 is a national grantee organization for the Open World Leadership Center. This means that we partner locally throughout the United States with all types of local hosting organizations, such as academic institutions, sister cities, and civic groups to administer open world exchanges. We strive to ensure that each open world exchange program meets your goals and Open World Leadership Center guidelines. We hope today's session is beneficial to everyone. We are so grateful to David Owens and the GrantsPass Sister City Committee for contributing their time and energy to this event. I hope everyone finds today a positive experience and a platform for continuing partnerships in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. And now I would like to give an opportunity to speak to one of our hosts from GrantsPass, David Owen, and also Russian counterpart, Ludmila Starchenko, President Rubtsovsk Sister City. David Owen served as the president of the GrantsPass Sister City Committee with the overseas our friendship with Sister City Rubtsovsk in Altai Krai, Russia. Please, David.
Thank you. Well, of course, I want to welcome everybody and thank you for getting up very early in GrantsPass and very late in Rubtsovsk and still coming together for a meeting. A little background, in 2020, we intended to send and bring delegates both from GrantsPass and Rubtsovsk, and it was our 30th year of friendship, and the coronavirus got in the way. So travel's been impossible. So this opportunity through Open World and FHI 360 is for us to get together and prepare for the time when we can get together in person. After our last delegation from Rubtsovsk, which was 2019, on the subject of volunteerism and nonprofits, we were looking for projects we might have in common with Rubtsovsk. We were also surprised in our daily lives how few people are aware of our sister city programs, even after 30 years. And so we felt we'd like to introduce Sister City to the future generation. So as we were thinking about what we could do, youth and parks came up right away as common ground between Rubtsovsk and GrantsPass. I believe it was Andre and Olga who came up with the first idea of bears in the park, that maybe each city could have a public location with some art and information about Sister City. So we've been on a parallel path for this past year to try and think of a concept for an installment in a park. And this is part of what the delegates for 2020 were selected for, to continue this relationship between our two cities, to develop a park project, a sculpture project, and whatever else we can come up with. Here in GrantsPass, we're exploring ideas for a sculpture, a Sister City sculpture that would probably include a bear and something to represent our relationship. We've started conversations here with the city and parks and the art community. And of course, we're welcoming our new mayor, Sarah Bristol, to join us as well. In GrantsPass, we're beginning discussions on how to raise money, and we've sought advice from a number of corners for that. That's the first part that we need to do, to find grants or money. It's one of the reasons too that we invited Saliha and from the Committee on Public Art and Tony, the urban forester, to come talk to us about what they do and some of the considerations when developing our projects. And of course, from Rubtsovsk, I think he's later on the schedule, we invited Andre, who's was here in 2019 and became kind of the main contact for us about youth parks. And he is involved in that, and he'll talk about that later. But of course, most importantly, we're excited to meet new delegates that will continue this relationship between the two cities. And we look forward to continuing friendship and future cooperation when we can get this pandemic out of the way. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you, David. Now, please, we'll give a time for Людмила to talk about herself.
Всем добрый вечер, рада всех приветствовать. Буду коротко, не буду повторяться то, что сказал Дэвид. Вот. Я рада всем вам, да, несмотря на поздний вечер, вот, и большое количество работы. Вот. Я думаю, что наши отношения, несмотря на пандемию, продолжатся и укрепятся. Организация, в смысле, делегация, которая должна была съездить у нас в прошлом году, но из-за пандемии поездка не состоялась. Я очень надеюсь, что она состоится в ближайшее время, возможно, даже в 2021 году это случится. Вот. И все проекты, которые мы наметили, в данном случае проект, связанный с облагораживанием, с усовершенствованием парков, я это всячески поддерживаю, насколько это возможно, и буду содействовать, помогать со своей стороны, как я это делаю на протяжении уже многих-многих лет. Ну, в общем, наверное, все. Я рада всех приветствовать и с удовольствием поучаствую в данном вебинаре. Спасибо.
It is my pleasure to introduce Sarah Bristol, Mayor of GrantsPass. Sarah Bristol recently won the election for Mayor of GrantsPass this past year. She ran on platform to increase transparency and accountability in government. Sarah, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, my name is Sarah. Good evening to those of you who are in Rubtsovsk. We are looking forward to having you come and visit us as soon as possible. We want you to see our beautiful city. We have about 38,000 people, and we're surrounded by mountains and trees and a beautiful river that's so fun for camping, fishing, rafting. Lots of outdoor activities are popular here. And we're about 2 hours from the redwoods, which are some of the biggest, tallest trees in the whole world, as well as the Pacific Ocean. So Southern Oregon is a really beautiful place to be, and we have friendly people and a very nice, attractive downtown with lots of restaurants and shops that are fun to visit. And I think when you come, you'll have a wonderful time here. I wanted to let you know that today it's 39 degrees outside, which is 4 degrees Celsius. So it's rainy, but it's much warmer than it is in Russia. Summer and fall are definitely the best times to visit us. We have wonderful sunny climate and warm weather. So I hope that you'll be able to come this year, and we'll welcome you with open arms. It will be very fun to see you in person, and it's wonderful that we can see you on the screen for now before you're even in this country.
Thank you, Sarah. Now I have time for our delegates to introduce themselves and to tell something about work you do and any projects you have developed. And let's start with Anna.
Здравствуйте всем. Меня зовут Анна. Я очень рада всех видеть. Я надеюсь, когда-нибудь наша поездка состоится. И я очень рада видеть ваши лица, слышать ваши голоса. Я графический дизайнер, иллюстратор. Я люблю брать фото людей и превращать их в мультипликационного персонажа. Разрабатываю фирменные стили для молодежи.
Закончил.
И одно из любимых — это дизайн меню для баров и ресторанов. Хотела побывать у вас, потому что приехал мой муж, и приехав, он вдохновил меня вашим образом жизни, вашими парками, архитектурой, и что совместно с вами мне бы хотелось сделать проект, который бы олицетворял нашу с вами дружбу и поставить этот символ у нас в городе, в нашем парке. И мы уже начали рисовать статуи и вами. Поэтому очень жду этой встречи. Вот так коротко о себе. Все.
Thank you, Anna. And I see Marina Kovaleva raise her hand.
Okay, can you hear me well? Я могу на русском и на английском, но для наших гостей буду говорить на английском. I'm very glad to see all of our friends. I have been to GrantsPass twice, and now I live in Novosibirsk, the center of Siberia. But I enjoy and I'm happy that I am a member of this big journey into our kind of future, because many people have traveled to GrantsPass and to Rubtsovsk since 1990, yeah? And I'm happy that there have been a lot of projects. And I hope that our future generation will live in a better world that we are making all together with our hands. And I'm happy to see our friends and hope to see you in Rubtsovsk, in Novosibirsk. And I hope for the best projects in the world. And I wish you good luck and happiness.
Thank you, Marina. And now let's give the time for Елена Kostrygina.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Елена Кострикина. По образованию я программист, инженер-математик. Работала в администрации нашего города довольно продолжительное время в IT-отделе. Параллельно я занималась разработкой сайтов, платформ для удаленного систем дистанционного обучения, ну, то есть занималась дистанционным обучением, так сказать, разработкой. Взаимодействовали мы, в частности, с городскими больницами и разными медучреждениями в этом плане. Я знаю, что у вас кто-то из спикеров, ну, связан с этой областью. Было бы интересно, ну, узнать информацию, какие у них, может, ну, новые разработки, связанные именно в области, как сказать, дистанционных технологий, программирования. Вот. Ну, что еще? Я многодетная мама, у меня 3 маленьких детей. Вот. И все мое основное время для хобби занимает именно семья по этой причине. Собственно, конечно, интересно побывать у вас, потому что за границей не часто удается путешествовать, так сказать. В основном все время работа. Вот. Тем более в вашем городе, как я уже наслышана, очень красиво. И посмотреть вообще, как, ну, другой уклад людей, образ жизни. Ну, то есть интересно было бы, конечно, посетить такое место. Ну, также занимаюсь социальными проектами. В прошлом году я сделала в своем микрорайоне детскую площадку и спортивную площадку, получила президентский грант на это, реализовала этот проект. Вот, в этом году планируется в другой части города тоже сделать нечто подобное, то есть для детей детская площадка, спортивная площадка в частном секторе, потому что там вообще нет ничего подобного, то есть там огромное количество домов, и ничего для этих, ну, как бы, для социума не развито, ничего нет. Поэтому занимаемся тоже такими проектами для своего города. Ну, все.
Thank you, Елена. And now we can turn to Alexey Olimpiev.
Как меня слышно? Кивните кто-нибудь. Все, спасибо. Всем привет, меня зовут Олимпиев Алексей. Всех приветствую, всех очень рад видеть. Очень надеюсь, что данная программа все-таки у нас состоится, несмотря на все ужасы, которые сейчас происходят. Я занимаюсь реализацией социально значимых проектов, то есть сейчас о себе говорю, и в том числе занимаюсь организацией и проведением различных, например, корпоративных мероприятий. Долго говорить не буду, потому что здесь еще очень много человек, которые хотели бы высказаться, и не хотелось бы задерживать их допоздна. Готов передать слово.
Краткость, сестра таланта.
Thank you, Alexey. And now last participant, Екатерина Протасова. Екатерина Протасова.
У них были проблемы с подключением.
Hey, Rustam, I was thinking while we're waiting for her to join, I wanted to ask everyone, the delegates, how they got involved with Sister Cities. Did Ludmilla reach out to them, or did they have some interest beforehand, or is this all entirely new to them? I'm not quite aware, and it'd be cool to know their relationship.
Нет, я хотела сказать, Лена.
Елена, окей.
Да. То есть, смотрите, меня тоже интересовал данный вопрос. То есть, как именно взаимодействие происходит по этой программе. Я, получается, попала, потому что я взаимодействовала с нашей городской больницей второй, вот как раз систему дистанционного обучения для них делала и другие всякие системы инцидентов. Вот. И получилось так, что много с какими врачами там общалась, они в прошлом году были частью делегации как раз городов-побратимов. Ну и зашла речь, она спросила, получается, что у меня соответствовала не квалификация, а не знаю, что, как это сказать. В общем, я занималась проектной деятельностью и в области программирования. Она сказала, что ты подходишь, как бы есть желание поучаствовать, раз ты активный человек и занимаешься такой деятельностью. Ну, я согласилась, и все. Еще Андрей, по-моему, хотел сказать. Андрей поднимал руку.
Yes, Андрей, please.
Секунду. Вот сейчас меня слышно. Добрый день, меня зовут Андрей Первачук. Я могу рассказать историю участия в программе «Открытого мира» длиною, наверное, лет в 10-12. Дело в том, что еще будучи студентом, то есть у нас в городе Рубцовске прошел слух о том, что есть возможность по обменом опытом съездить в Соединенные Штаты Америки, в наш город-побратим GrantsPass. Но, к сожалению, если мне память не изменяет, это был именно 2010 год, тогда была достаточно напряженная политическая обстановка между нашими странами, и тогда был просто, то есть, ну, как бы кинут клич о том, что, то есть, молодые активные хотели бы, то есть, если поехать, пожалуйста, мы вас просим, но тогда это все дело, то есть, ну, как бы прикрылось, и, скажем так, поездка не состоялась. И вот прошло буквально, то есть, 9 лет. Город-побратим GrantsPass не успокаивается в этом плане и пишет гранты и выбивает всевозможные, то есть, возможности, простите за тавтологию, для того, чтобы мы действительно более часто обменивались визитами. И вот уже в 2019 году по линии общественных организаций, если раньше это было просто молодежное движение, то сейчас по линии общественных организаций удалось посетить GrantsPass и побывать все-таки спустя большое количество времени в нашем городе-побратиме. Спасибо.
Well, in this case, we can move forward, and now we'll be hearing a few words from Sulia Mcdougall. She's the chair of Committee on Public Art. Please, Sulia.
Good morning, friends. I think I know how to say "Привет," if you can hear me. I don't know.
Wonderful.
Good to be with you this morning. Good. You laughed. I got a laugh. That's good. And good for you for seeking out opportunities to grow yourself. You know, I think that's what we all do, no matter where we live. I know that I certainly am just always trying to progress my life and my contribution in the world and my expression of spirit. So good for you. And it's exciting to hear your stories, Anna, that you're a graphic designer. That's great. Maybe you can, we've got some projects, and maybe you email send your email to David and get on our mailing list, because this is a partnership, right? And you never know when an opportunity is going to come up. And that's what we're all here for. We don't know exactly what will happen, what opportunities will happen, but we start the ball rolling, right? And Elena, you work in IT. I work in IT too, in my day job at the hospital, in the hospital system here in GrantsPass. It's not what I studied for. I went to college for first theater and then international development. I lived in West Africa for several years, which was really interesting. That's when I really saw the power of culture. You can't really see it in your own environment, the power of culture, right? But then you go somewhere different and you kind of can't even understand life because you don't have that lens through which, you know, this new culture is seeing the world. So it is such a gift for us to explore different cultures and grow ourselves. And yeah, it just opens up new ways of seeing things and new ways of doing things, right? So glad that we can be here together. Let's see. So I am the chair of GrantsPass's Committee on Public Art. We have the name COPA, Committee on Public Art, and we're a group of volunteers. I think there's about 12 of us or so. And we're artists and art advocates. And I just want to tell you a little bit about what our committee looks like, the things we work on, kind of the process for getting things done. and just kind of open that door and let you peek inside and share what that looks like. So let's see, we have our volunteers, and then also on our committee, we have a city liaison, which is a person that actually works for the city for their day job. And she's there to support us. And that's so super nice because we can come once a month with our volunteer hours and bring the energy to keep moving things forward. And then she can help us every day of the week, right? To kind of work out the finer points and get things done. We also have a council liaison. So this is a person that sits on our city council and participates with that city council to make decisions for our city. And so that's really great to have her there because she can give us feedback on things she thinks the city would or would not approve. And then she can take information from us back to the city council and keep them informed about what we're doing and prime them a little bit for things that they might see coming their way from us. And then overall, I would say my experience has been, it's a really great relationship. And I think why it works so well is because our city actually sees the value of public art. And because of that, they see opportunities and they bring us in, or when we have ideas and opportunities, they understand, they get it, and we're able to move things forward because of that. So let's see. I want to ask a question here. Maybe Anna, I can ask you if you're willing. I want to ask someone there what your public art looks like. Do you have a lot of public art? Because I would say for GrantsPass, and what I imagine, of course, I imagine that all over the city is full of beautiful art. And so I would say we have very little. Reality, we have some public art, but I, of course, want it to be so much more. So Anna, what's the public art like there?
У нас очень на самом деле все это серо, если не добавлять воображение, поэтому хотелось бы привнести сюда как раз чуточку молодежного чего-то и такого многогранного, чтобы когда ты ходил по городу, смотрел, ты видел в этом что-то немножко глубже, чем просто серые камни, здания. Именно поэтому Андрей, когда привозил фотографии с GrantsPass, я говорю, почему ты не снимал эти здания? Потому что он снимал, когда эти здания, там было очень много росписи, граффити, и хотелось бы, чтобы люди рисовали больше, чем матершинное слово на стене, и все-таки приобщились. А чтобы приобщиться, нужно, по идее, прививать это, чтобы этого было больше, чтобы они ходили и видели, что на каждом углу делается... Есть человек, который создает что-то интересное. Вот так, я думаю, нужно будет делать.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think even here I feel that way, that there's a lot of gray. And I know I grew up here in GrantsPass, and I remember a phase where it just felt like we were getting fast food restaurants and kind of nothing else. Big box stores, fast food restaurants, no expression of culture or personal identity to this space. And then we had, I think, I'm speaking just now personally for myself, not the committee. I want to make that disclaimer. But it felt like we had a lot of wildlife art, which is great. We have a lot of wildlife here. It's beautiful. But I just want to create that sense of place unique. What's unique about GrantsPass, and express that so that people really feel like, no, this is our place, and they feel proud and connected to it. So I think that's the importance of public art, is it makes our space our space, right? It takes an empty house and it makes it the home with the pictures and the furniture you like, and it's full with love, and people feel connected and proud to live there. And I know GrantsPass, like I grew up here. It's not a big city, there's not a lot of economic opportunities. It's kind of a retirement town. Older people tend to move there to retire. And you know, because of those reasons, I never envisioned staying. But on the same hand, it's a very beautiful place. You know, we have 3 rivers running through, and when it is smaller like that, that also means there's a lot of opportunities for young people like us, like you were saying, Anna. The young people get involved, and we find those opportunities. There's always opportunities, right? And we take responsibility, and we try to move things forward and get something done. So I'm also very inspired to live here in GrantsPass, because I feel like I have, in a lot of ways, more opportunity than I would in a big city to make a contribution. So that was my little attempt to express the importance of public art. And I think everyone on my committee would agree with me that we're there to make our city more beautiful so that people are able to enjoy it more. And I know that the city sees the value of public art in that way too. Of course, it also brings tourists to the area, you know, and can drive economics, which are added benefits. So I'm glad that they see the value in public art again, and that we're able to move things together. The next thing I just want to share, give you an idea of some of our big projects. And I'm not keeping time. Is somebody going to tell me if I go over my time? Okay, thanks for the thumbs up. So here's some of the projects we have going on. We have a parking lot project, and this is, the city has these designated parking areas downtown, and they named them all. Like, we have the beaver parking lot, the duck parking lot, the osprey parking lot, bear, and they opened up our opportunity for us to do a sculpture in each one of those parking lots. So each year we get to do a sculpture in one of those parking lots. So that's really fun for us. We have our Art in Motion project, and that's where our public bus system, we have just we have some public buses here in GrantsPass, and we get a vinyl print of artwork, and we put it on the side of the bus, and that's called Art in Motion. We do that twice a year, so that's fun. And we recently started an alley beautification project, and that is, we have alleys running through our downtown area, and of course they're kind of scary and nobody wants to walk down them, but actually they're public park space. They're owned by our parks department. So the thought was, let's make them beautiful and places that people would actually walk down and use and enjoy that space. So we're working on our first one, and the idea for it is like a nature hike. So around GrantsPass, we have lots of nature trails, and we have beautiful wildflowers in the spring. And so this will be like, you're able to take a nature walk when you're downtown. And it also feels very personal, because it'll have our wildflowers, and people will walk down it and feel like, oh yeah, I know this is GrantsPass, this is us. So that's exciting.
Sorry for interrupting. Are you sharing any pictures with us?
Oh no, I didn't think to do that.
Oh, because you explaining all this nice views, but we thought you were sharing pictures.
Oh darn! Sorry, I didn't think of that.
I'll add some more pictures in my background, because I think you guys can see a bear.
Yes,
and I'll find a couple more pictures and share them while you're talking.
Awesome, thanks, Sarah. Okay, and then the last project that we're working on is, we're calling it our Art Box project. And I don't know if you guys have this too, but we have these ugly utility boxes all around our town. Tony's laughing. Hopefully I'm not insulting anybody, but there are these gray boxes all over town, pretty big. I'm going like this, but they're big, right? And they have graffiti on them. They have stickers, and they're gray and ugly. So we're hoping to paint them, to cover them maybe in vinyl wraps, but to bring color and joy to that. So that's the last project that we haven't gotten moving yet, but we are hoping to do 5 of those boxes this year. And when for any of these projects, our basic flow is just, you know, we have the project, we have the details worked out, we have the however we're going to get the funding worked out, and then we put out a call for artists. And sometimes we get a big response, sometimes we get a small response, and we sit in the committee and we look at the artist's artwork, or maybe they've submitted a specific proposal for that project or that space, and we make our picks. And then the artists, they work pretty independently, and we just have touch points over the course of the project to make sure that everything's staying on track. And of course, we don't actually make decisions. So all of this, at each decision point, it comes before the city council to make sure that they approve of what we're administering, what we're helping to guide. So that's our basic process. And I guess my thoughts for your project, I wrote in the chat, I don't know if you saw it, and I wrote in English, so I don't know if the chats are getting translated. It seems like maybe not. But public art is always a great thing. So glad that you guys are going to do a piece of public art. I know for the Sister City project, since I've been going to City Hall for the last several years, we have that case. We have a case in our City Hall with artifacts and information about our sister city. And I've always stopped over the last, 4 years that I've been working on the committee, and stopped at that case. It's special when you can have a relationship with somewhere across the world. And so anyways, glad that you're going to do this public art. And a couple thoughts, just encourage you to make sure that what you want to say about the relationship comes through the piece of art. So whether that's, I watched some of the YouTube videos about our sister city. I saw a lot of people talking about friendship, a lot of people talking about seeing that we're all the same, even though our cultures may be slightly different, about how forming these relationships opens minds and keeps maybe a more peaceful world little bit by little bit. And so I just want to encourage you. I hope that shines through in whatever you end up creating. And like we told David Copa, we don't, we're here to help however it unfolds. And David, thank you for inviting me here today. And I look forward to talking more. Joel, I saw your hand up. Was that for me?
Yeah, no, I'm just very fascinated by, a committee on public art. So when you were done speaking, I did have a question or two.
Okay, let's see. I think I'm done.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for that. And I hope other people have some questions as well. My interest is in, you say GrantsPass is a smaller city. How does the ideas formulate? Are you getting like 3 or 4 ideas from the same artists, every meeting? Or do people outside organizations come to you, or do you guys do your own research and reach out to other people? How do you keep the direction of ideas flowing?
I think it happens all ways. Like an example, the city might have an idea, like they were doing a strategic plan for downtown and they contract it with a third party. And part of that contractor's idea was a space committed to public art. So of course, the city, we're so lucky to have their support. They brought that idea in front of us and we could say, oh, that would be, yes, right? Yay to that. We applaud that. We want that. If you do that, we are here to help march that forward. So ideas come in like that. We might also have our own ideas as a committee, like the Art Box project and making the utility boxes beautiful. That was our idea. And then sometimes community members will come to us and say, hey, we want to do this mural, or and maybe something might come out of it that way. Or there was a young man that wanted to come do a mural, and somebody on our committee was able to get him some paint. So all going towards that message of working together and finding the opportunities. And I guess structure is important, right? Like having the committee and being able to report up to the city council. And it's just important that we have a structure for ourselves, right? We're not individuals with hopes of art floating out there. We've come together, we have some sort of structure that allows us to achieve things. So I think that's an important part of this equation. And the other thing I want to mention is that the city does have an annual goal setting process. So that's really nice because each year they hear from all their committees. They have many committees and each committee can report back on, you know, how things are going, new hopes for the year, and they can endorse things at that time or take those ideas under their wing as an important part of what the city wants to achieve in the next year. Thank you for that question. Am I allowed to take questions? Any more questions?
Yes, absolutely. If anyone have any questions to Sonia, please raise your hand and or ask on the chat, and we will direct them directly to Sonia.
David.
Hey, you mentioned that we have a lot of wildlife statues around the city. And of course, our big idea is a sister city bear. And we were thinking it ought to be recognized as a bear and have some element that says sister city, whether it's a raft or a Matryoshka doll or something that says friendship. Andre probably will show what they're thinking about, but how do we think outside the box and do something that isn't just a bronze statue of a bear? Do you have any ideas for us?
Well, I think I'd ask you, you thought of a bear, right? Did that come from the GrantsPass side?
I think it was mutual, and probably Andre could, and Olga originally talked about that, but yes, because the most prevalent symbol in GrantsPass is the evergreen bank bears, which are shiny, beautiful bears in different poses all around the city. And we thought we would like to have, we have a sister city bear done by Janet Higgins here, and it's beautiful with painted scenes that came from Nancy Hitchcock's pictures from Rubtsovsk, and it's very nice. But we thought we want to do something different for to show friendship and to show both us and there. So I guess we naturally, or maybe without thinking, thought it had to be a bear. And bear is a very important symbol in Russia, I believe, too. So it's an appropriate one. I guess that's how it came about. And it's not that there aren't some other ideas, but we've certainly haven't branched out to a better one at this point. I see a green share of some of the bears.
Yes, I was just gonna say, I think why we love the bears so much too is because they're playful, right? They're bears, but they're personalities, right? They're expression of different emotions and personalities, and they're personal, right? Like that one, the Dutch Bros, that's our biggest coffee shop and a local pride, right? Harry Potter, right? So they're playful, and I think this was one of the projects that gosh, it was just so electric for our city, wasn't it? And people felt so much joy because of how fun they are. And you can see every picture, people are having fun with the personality of the bear. So that's something to think about. You know, maybe your bears are holding hands or are dressed in different ways, but sharing something else or having an experience, right? But also sometimes too, like we did for our alley beautification project, you could also offer the goals of what you want to achieve and leave the final product and what it's going to look like to the selected artist, right? So you could say, we want something that symbolizes this or speaks to this. and this is, you know, this is our budget, and maybe you might have some other, we want to have information, be able to have written information or certain pictures attached, right? But you can outline the requirements too, and see what the artists bring you. You could do it that way too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's really fun to see all those bears too, and that's not all of them.
And what, did I ask this? What's the meaning of the bear in Russia? What's the importance of the bear?
Does anyone from Russia can answer this question?
Well, I can just mention from us, if no one's first, Andre will say, okay, but in our press and media and cartoons, Russia's always been in a cartoon, a picture of a bear. And we're poking the bear, or the bear's waking up, the bear's mad, whatever it is, the country in our press has been represented as a bear. And I'll just leave it at that and hope to hear from our Russian counterparts.
Андрей, микрофон.
Прощения. Вот можно мне объяснить все-таки, друзья? Слышно меня?
Давай, давай.
Я немножечко издалека зайду и скажу, почему все-таки, ну, наверное, символ медведя захотели поставить в городе Рубцовске. Вот сейчас как раз мэр GrantsPass'а отошла, и мы видим у нее на фоне того мишку, который стоит с одной стороны набережной имени Петрова в Рубцовске, а с другой стороны, я уже не помню, какой символ, то есть в GrantsPass'е. И мы посчитали очень несправедливым и, наверное, с нашей стороны недоработанным, что за 30 лет дружбы, ну, никто, может быть, конечно, додумались, но никто все-таки не реализовал эту идею и так долго ее, то есть, ну, не муссировал. Поэтому лично мы, наша делегация, то есть предложила как раз, то есть поставить именно символ мишку в городе Рубцовске. Вы правильно сказали о том, что как важен медведь, как зверь, как символ для, наверное, то есть вашей территории, в принципе, для Соединенных Штатов Америки, так и для России. Ведь если вы приедете к нам в гости, и ваши коллеги, которые уже были, могут подтвердить, у нас медведи по улицам ходят с балалайками, и это наше все. Мы без медведей, в принципе, не можем. Поэтому, если убрать шутку, то для нас это действительно, то есть как бы символ там мужества, символ некого такого, то есть как бы природного величия. И медведь — это очень и очень популярное животное, дикое животное в России.
Oh, I heard so many exciting things. Those are very powerful words of what the bear symbolizes. I thought it was interesting, David, when you explained how the bear has been used to portray Russia, right? And now here we are friends. That was interesting.
Yeah, not only courage and bravery, but friendly bears, yogi bears. I don't know how we can picture it. And I should also mention that for Sister City, our symbol for the two cities has been bridges. Rubtsovsk has a river and we have a river. And if you see our website, there's two bridges side by side. One's from Rubtsovsk and one's from GrantsPass. And they're just a little bit similar in shape. And so that's another image we've had, like bridges between cities. It's an important, I think it's the Katun River. I'm not sure. There's several rivers in Rubtsovsk as well. But anyway, that's so bears and bridges have been on our mind.
Yeah, that's great. And then Andre, you said that bears, it's something we both have. And so that there's something a little funny and clever there to me too, right? Like, oh, is this accident or destiny that we both have the same looking bears? Maybe it's meant to be. That's kind of fun.
I thought of the third symbol, and this goes back to 1997, and Nancy and Barbara remember this, when we planted some Sister City trees, and they chose birch trees, which is also a very famous tree in Russia. Unfortunately, they have faded away, and that's part of our motivation to do more in a park with trees. Tony will hopefully give us some ideas of what options and things that we should think about trees, but I don't know that we could do a sculpture of a tree, but we sure could plant or adopt, as was once suggested, the trees in a park near a sculpture, for example. So that's a third symbol.
Is it Yelena?
Можно?
Yes, Elena, please.
Можно? Смотрите, я на всех фотографиях, которых вот сейчас медведи показывали, все время ребятишки вокруг, то есть им, видимо, нравятся данные объекты. Была такая идея когда-то, то есть не просто скульптура, допустим, того же самого медведя, да, потому что скульптуры они везде, но чуть-чуть отличаются, но однотипные в основном, то есть что-то такое монолитное, громоздкое. А если это что-то из металла и, ну, то есть сетчатое такое, но достаточно прочное, и внутри, допустим, даже какие-то натянутые веревки типа лазилки, то есть для детей, такое не маленькое, а побольше размером, то есть что-то такое более масштабное, и это будет, ну, очень круто так, буквально как бы и детям будет нравиться. У нас по городу тоже очень много на самом деле проектов делается. Возможно, они незаметны, они как бы не сильно много стоят, но интересно, это просто личная инициатива людей. У нас есть городской фонд, они туда обращаются. К сожалению, у нас взаимодействие с администрацией не настолько вот налажено, что вот как у вас, как вы рассказываете, это потрясающе, потому что я когда сталкивалась, ну, они как сказать, ну, выражают как бы заинтересованность, но помощь посильную, то есть финансово они точно особо оказывать не будут. Единственное, они могут выделить территорию для реализации, то есть как-то вот морально, так сказать, поддержать или что-то такое. Вот. Даже когда организацию создавала, у меня возникли на работе проблемы по этому поводу. Потому что муниципальный служащий нельзя организацию создавать. Вот, и у нас люди, в общем, участвуют и реализуют тоже. У нас и на проспекте и медведя поставили, и металлические скульптуры с гармошкой, и ромашки поставили, которые ночью светятся. То есть просто сами люди, и даже не молодые, то есть уже в возрасте, они хотят тут тоже благоустроить территорию. Им тоже не нравится, что ты выходишь, и все серое, что, ну, как-то вот блекло все, особенно когда начинается осень, и ты вот осень, зима, весна, и вот это все серость тоже пытаются как бы развивать, вот это все устанавливать, как бы тоже изменения, в принципе, видно, они идут. Но вот как вы, конечно, взаимодействие с органами наладили, это потрясающе, потому что у нас тяжело вот это вот протолкнуть. Вот, ну, просто хотела вот такое предложение насчет даже медведя, что интересно было бы и детям заодно. И, ну, я думаю, такого еще не было. Ну, все.
I wish I had that answer for you, but I don't know how to establish a partnership. But just what you said, I think you said is what I said, is what you said is what I said. Some sort of structure, right? Where people can support each other with a common mission. So good luck. David, you all are not part of the sister city group, right? Is it is it this group? Are these the people that are working on the project design, or is that a separate group of people?
In GrantsPass, it's our committee, which is about 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
In Rubtsovsk, the delegation is separate. They're part of the Open World Young Leaders program coming. Mm-hmm. So they're separate from Sister City. So it's a loose relationship, but Sister City's sponsoring them coming. And of course, we are happy to have them join in Sister City and become part of that process of connecting our city administrations and public interests. So I don't know if that answers the question, but the delegates are separate from Sister City, but they could possibly join. I think some of them intend to, and that's up to the committee, I guess, how they do their memberships.
Right. Well, that would be fantastic. There's so much talent on this call, I can tell. So
Nice.
Now I'll give our interpreter 5 minutes break. Please do not log out, just keep in touch, and in 5 minutes we'll be back. So take you another cup of water or glass of tea. 5 minutes.
Well, I've switched to having Coca-Cola now from coffee. I was thinking, if it's a sister city, maybe I should have kvass. I really like the kvass at Tiramok. I don't know if you... does Rubtsovsk have a Tiramok fast food? I didn't see it. But I have to say that the Tiramok, which is blini, is my favorite fast food in Russia. And I always get a liter of kvass with my blini, and it's very tasty.
1 liter is not enough.
Okay.
I used to buy 3 liter.
3 liter, wow.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep up with you if we have a meeting. Our two sister cities started with rafting a little over 30 years ago. And Sotar Rafting in GrantsPass had rafts in some of those first project rafts journeys down the rivers. And I think Mark Kellenbeck is here. He was involved in those early days and some of the river trips. But to me, it's a wonderful history I know nothing about. We certainly aren't bringing rafting tours to Rubtsovsk anymore. And that would be a fun thing to do.
that sounds like a really cool story.
Welcome back, everybody, again. And now I'm going to pass the time for the Tony Mccomb, and he's going to talk about urban forest in GrantsPass Park.
Awesome, thank you so much. I do have something to share on the screen, so I hope that it works. I'm gonna try. Does that seem to be the slide?
Looks good.
Perfect.
Great, thank you. So I'm the urban forester for the city of GrantsPass, and thank you so much for letting me talk about our program and how we can help foster the sister city relationship. I remember as a grade school student here in GrantsPass learning about the sister city, and it's really exciting to be here in this capacity. So the photos that I'm sharing are of GrantsPass, and hopefully I'll give a good overview of our program. So most of the slides are just photos. This is probably the one with the most text, but our city has a pretty strong goal for its urban forest. And as you can see in this photo, that's of our north part of town. And so the city's goal is to restore, establish, and maintain a healthy urban forest with age and species diversity that keeps pace with urban growth, recognizing the numerous functions and benefits a healthy urban forest provides. So what is an urban forest? Fortunately, our federal government has a pretty robust definition of that, but as you can see this photo of GrantsPass's urban forest in the fall, it definitely matches our federal government's Forest Service definition, which is that they have accounted for over 130 million acres of America's forests are located in cities and towns. And the forest can comprise areas of urban parks, street trees, gardens, river and coastal promenades, greenways, river corridors, wetlands, nature preserves, and various other segments of areas where you see trees and other vegetation. So GrantsPass, especially with our Rogue River that runs through, has a really nice urban forest. And the city identifies a lot of the benefits that our forest provides. One of them is that our urban forest increases our property values. They reduce the amount of energy that we consume from air conditioners in the summer because of shade. And then also windbreaks that can help with heating costs. Trees and our forest improve our health. There are many exciting studies that show being close to trees can improve birth rates, they can lower blood pressure, and also improve healing time when you're in the hospital if you have a view of trees versus the view of another building or gray environment. Some studies out of some of our larger cities in the US have shown that trees can reduce crime, reduce air pollution. But really important here in the Pacific Northwest, our trees intercept storm water, so they function a lot as green infrastructure. They increase shade for cooling, especially in our warm summers. They improve our fish habitat by keeping our river nice and cool for our fish populations. They can calm traffic by slowing down speeds if you have a lot of street trees. They provide a restful environment, increase tourism, which is very important to our economy. They increase business revenue. Many studies have shown that people will frequent downtown areas that have more trees than areas that don't have trees. They sequester carbon dioxide, so they help with climate change. And they're also a way to honor people and property, which I hope to get into, and how we could partner with honoring our sister cities. So in a great sense, they're beautiful, but they're also infrastructure. They do so much. Of course, there are costs to having an urban forest, and those can be watering the trees, cleaning up the leaves, and pruning and other maintenance, but the benefits significantly outweigh the costs of trees, especially in the urban forest, where really they're workhorses working day and night, purifying our environment and our health, and increasing our economy. So the urban forest, yes, trees grow on their own, but especially when they're growing next to streets and sidewalks and buildings, they require some care. So my role, I am there as part of tree planting, through tree maintenance and preservation, and then eventually the tree removal as the trees age and become a hazard. Just as the city has a committee on public arts, the city also has an urban tree advisory committee, also made up of volunteers. It has a staff liaison, which is me, I'm on the far left. We have a council liaison, which is Councillor Joel King. He's in the middle front. And then the rest of our committee members are volunteers. And their role is to provide recommendations to City Council on urban forest management. Although we have a really good urban forestry program here in the city, our urban forest management is not for every tree in the city. So the city has some restricted jurisdiction. So here is a map of one of our neighborhoods. And what I've done is I shaded the areas that the city and what I manage. So we have park trees. This is Lonardge Park. It's one of our community parks. All of those trees receive care, maintenance, and planting all pretty much in-house. We do contract out some of the tree management, like pruning and removals. We also have here in that kind of pink color, these are our right-of-way trees or street trees. And these are trees that are the responsibility of homeowners, but the city, through our municipal code, has rules and regulations on how to manage them. And then we have riparian trees, which are trees that are near creeks and rivers and other water bodies. And there are certain city regulations on how those are managed. So really anything that's not shaded is private property. And the city, we don't really get involved in those private property trees, with few exceptions. I think a lot of times the most exciting part is the tree planting, because we get some volunteers, we get a lot of people signing up to be part of it. And so we do have this resident city partnership. Specifically, we have tree canopy program, which I'll talk about very briefly, our memorial tree program. And then we also can assist people replacing hazardous trees that are lining our streets. And then of course we have some in-house plantings, which are our park plantings. And then sometimes we get money from car accidents. If a car unfortunately hits a street tree, we can get some restitution money and replant those trees. Our tree canopy program is a great way to increase the canopy on private property. So every year the city has 50 trees and the public can purchase them for $50 per tree. And that includes the planting of it, the purchasing. Really the homeowner does nothing other than giving us permission and helping us find a great location. So this year we had 5 different species. 3 of them were large shade trees and 2 were smaller trees for some of those more constrained areas like underneath high voltage power lines. And so the photo on the right, that's a couple, they applied, they actually got 2 trees in their front yard and they were really excited and wanted to take a photo and share that with the city. Our memorial tree program is also pretty popular. This allows residents to purchase or donate a tree. It costs them $100 and we plant the tree in one of our parks. And that tree often will memorialize somebody's loved one. We often have people who have lost dogs or cats and they would like to plant a tree in their honor. And then we also have individuals who like to just honor their organization. And so we plant trees and we find a location for them. And all these photos are from different memorial tree celebrations. Some of the exciting things we're working on is that we actually don't know where all of our public and semi-public trees are, nor do we know their species or location. Our Oregon State Department of Forestry provided statewide this online mapping software, and we are slowly beginning to map out all of our trees along our streets and in our city parks. And this will help us inform what our management needs are moving forward and our species diversity, so that if there's ever a pest like a beetle or a fungus that comes into our city, we will know, hopefully, what our potential impact looks like and what kind of mitigation options we have. There are some very notable pests that are currently moving across the United States. One is called the emerald ash borer, and it's wreaking havoc on ash trees. It's very prevalent in areas like the Midwest and like Pennsylvania and the East Coast, like New York, and it's spreading. It has not crossed the Rocky Mountains yet, but it's anticipated to cross over, and it wipes out virtually all ash trees, especially our native North American ash trees. There are some very devastating communities that have lost all of their street trees because they've relied heavily on one species, and without that diversity, one disease can knock out a population. We've also this year, especially in the pandemic, have tried to figure out ways to educate the public. So we have a new online kind of urban forestry homepage that you can access. It's just grantspassoregon.gov/tree. And that's kind of the central location to find all of our information and tree permits if you want to do work on a tree or get a tree planted. We've also tried to find ways to increase our education to homeowners through our city's newsletter. And then we have partnered with some local organizations like our local school district called District 7 Schools. And here on the left, we have 2 school students help plant seedlings. This was a photo that their parent took and sent in for a little prize. We handed out over 100 seedlings to our school students as they picked up their free lunches. We've also had an ongoing partnership with our local garden club. They love to donate at least 2 trees a year to our parks. And then our Josephine County Master Gardeners is a great organization that has started to help us inventory those trees on our streets. There's a lot of text here. I will try and simplify it, but basically I am new to the city. I grew up here in GrantsPass and then moved away for education and work. And when the urban forester position started, I always wanted to come back to GrantsPass, and I applied and fortunately was hired. And so I've been here for a little over a year, and my role is to inspect trees for hazards and make sure that the property owner who is responsible makes sure to mitigate and reduce that risk. I also oversee various permit process. So if somebody wants to prune their street tree, they have to get the okay from the city. I also help with the education of our urban forestry programs. I develop tree standards for planting, care, and removal. Really, how the tree is planted and where you get your tree will significantly increase the lifespan and health of that tree. It seems really simple, basic, and maybe not a big deal to some people, but really how you plant that tree is gonna, for potentially many hundreds of years, increase the benefits. And as I said, I am also on our tree committee and I oversee our tree inventory. So I would love to help out honoring our sister city. And so I put up some tree species that are pretty common to our area and also in Russia, and would like to help start or continue the conversation on how to honor you guys and this organization. So as David talked about, birches being very popular in a lot of areas, but especially in Russia, we have had some issues with some birch species here in GrantsPass, but we do have a North American native birch tree called the river birch that does well here. And that's primarily because they are drought tolerant. We have really dry, hot summers. So trees that are drought tolerant do well here. And river birches also do well near water. So they're really good in those extremes. And this could be a potential tree that we could plant, or we have 4 really great birch trees already that we could officially adopt as honoring our sister city. And that photo on the left is actually those trees here at one of our parks that are doing exceptionally well. There are also pines that are great. It's a really great genus across the Northern Hemisphere. And Scots pine, in some areas it's called Scotch pine, but the scientific name, Pinus sylvestris. This is actually native in Russia and in other parts of Europe. We have it here in GrantsPass, and it does not grow as well as in Europe, but it is a hardy, good tree here in North America. And it has a long history in the United States. So that could be a potential star that could honor both of our cities. Lindens are trees that do well here in North America and in GrantsPass. And also there is a species that we have here that does well and is native in Russia, which we call it little leaf linden. I would love to know what the Russian name is for it, but its scientific name is Tilia cordata, and it has a really beautiful symmetrical shape, and it's great for wildlife. Linden trees do well with pollinator species and the little leaf linden is drought tolerant. And then I think this is kind of my last, there's certainly more trees to look at, but oaks, you can find them across the Northern Hemisphere and down into the equator. But on the left is one of the native oaks out of Russia. That definitely is a very significant tree, that image right there. We don't have any of these here in GrantsPass that I know of. Maybe our inventory will find one hiding somewhere. That would be exciting. But doing a little bit of research, I found that some of the horticulturalists believe that that tree is an ancestor to the English oak, which does well here in GrantsPass. There are some cultivars that do better than others, but are of that species. So this could be a great way, if we planted the English oak, to honor that native oak species, as it is thought to be genetically very closely related. So that's kind of the end of my images and kind of formal presentation, but I would be more than happy to answer questions or brainstorm how to honor your city and our program through the urban forest.
Thank you, Tony. And now, if anybody have any questions, please raise your hand and ask your questions. Anna, please.
Тони, добрый день, вечер. Я хотела бы сказать, что вам срочно нужно уволиться с вашей работы, приехать к нам в город, потому что я поняла, что нам просто необходим такой человек, который смотрит за деревьями. У нас это основная проблема. И когда мы высаживаем, у нас есть тоже волонтеры, которые высаживают эти деревья, и когда мы их высаживаем, я понимаю, что за ними просто некому ухаживать. Часть из них, 50%, наверное, из них погибает, 50 вырастают как попало. И, ну, наверное, может быть, от силы 20-30 деревьев каких-то выживает. И, конечно, очень грустно. Я смотрю на вас и завидую, и понимаю, что вы просто нам тут необходимы. Либо вы должны себя клонировать и приехать к нам и создать такую компанию. Вот. А вопрос у меня следующий. Вы говорили про мемориальные деревья. Я хотела бы уточнить. Вот, допустим, дерево, которое в память о животном. Их просто ставят или все-таки там под ним животное? Ну, интересно вот этот момент.
That's a great questions. I feel honored that you want to clone me and take care of my clone. That sounds wonderful. But I think to address that first part, we also face that same issue. And I think that that's really potentially the biggest issue with expanding the forest. Is it's great to plant the tree, people love it, it's a great day, and then they kind of wipe their hands of it and move on. And it's not just urban forestry, it's often opening up a new park or buying a new house or car. Nobody wants to take care of it or clean it or do the dirty work. So one strategy that has been working here and worked in my previous job in New York City, it's working exceptionally well in New York City, is that a lot of cities are understanding now that trees are much more than a garden element or something to make the city look beautiful. It's actual infrastructure. And it's one of the things that, unlike a street sign or sidewalk that is great the day you install it, but as days go on, the value depreciates, trees actually appreciate. So as the years go on, the tree gets more beneficial and its value increases. So New York City was very strategic. They partnered with the federal government to do a study on what is the dollar value, because most local governments and really any government wants to know what's the value of this? Why would we invest in it? So why would we invest in money to water the trees? And so New York City was brilliant. They had this information lined up. The Forest Service said, for every $1 you put in to your forest, you get $5 in return. So when a new mayor came, his name was Michael Bloomberg. He tried to run for president very unsuccessfully. And he, when he started, he had one of his initiatives was to make New York City more hospitable, especially as the population increases and the climate changes. So the Parks Department presented this empirical data and said that this is one way, let's invest in our forest. And they got an incredible amount of money, many millions of dollars. And so every year I was part of the tree planting program, and there were at least 60 of us, 60, and we oversaw multi-million-dollar tree planting programs. And that included money to water those trees, because the city knew those trees, yeah, they looked beautiful, but they were there to cool down the city, because heat death is the #1 natural cause of death in New York City. Those trees are helping cool that urban environment. And then also stormwater, because in New York City and a lot of cities, if the stormwater surges, then that gets mixed in with sewage and gets dumped into the river. So like the East River and Hudson River of New York City can get really polluted when they get a lot of rain, especially in the summer. So the more trees they have and the less concrete they have, the less of that nasty sewage getting dumped into the river. So they really thought about trees were infrastructure. So if there's a way to partner with a nonprofit or a federal government or a local, some government that has researchers, and it can be difficult, and get that monetary value and show it to those officials that have the very difficult job of balancing budgets, that could be a way to make watering the trees sexy. Like it gives us money. Like anything that produces money, usually people like that. So if there's any way that you can find that, or even educate your volunteers, let's water trees, because that's usually what the trees need. That's my best answer, other than because I don't know how to move over to Russia. And
Спасибо, Тони.
yeah, great question. So we had to grapple with that because we had somebody plant a tree and they had their dog cremated, so had the ashes. They sprinkled the ashes and we planted the tree. So I did a little research, and because when that happened, there was a local, I don't think it was in our newspaper, but maybe city newsletter that got featured. And I got a lot of calls from people, and started to get calls from people asking if they could sprinkle their deceased father's ashes. So I checked in with our county health officials. They were okay with it. I checked in with a city leadership, and it was determined that for the time being, we will not be doing that in our city parks. So right now, there's no body or nothing in there. So we've stopped with the ashes, putting the ashes in the tree bowl. So we plant the tree and give a certificate to those individuals with the name of their loved one, if it's the pet, or their father, mother, brother, sister. And then if they would like, they can be there when the tree is planted.
А можно я скажу? Или что?
Пожалуйста.
Здравствуйте еще раз. Смотрите, у нас тоже был в Рубцовске опыт с березами, и тоже, к сожалению, неудачный. Тоже сами волонтеры ездили, выкапывали, сами садили. Действительно, у нас очень большая проблема. У нас эта область никак не финансируется. И получается, что если ты посадил, ты ищешь сам варианты, как поливать. От города это очень сложно как-то взаимодействие тоже найти. И получается так, что березы не везде приживаются. Дубы, я так понимаю, что тоже как достаточно привередливое дерево, как все говорят. Как вариант, если засушливый район, то, ну, возможно, хвойные, они более-менее как-то переносят, вот их реже, я так понимаю, поливать, соответственно, надо, и зимой они будут зеленые, всегда радовать глаз. То есть и в плане того, что делались ли у нас какие-то исследования относительно деревьев, у нас как бы никаких программ в городе таких особо как по озеленению не проводится, я смотрю, только волонтеры вот что сажают периодически. У нас были такие прецеденты, что в частном секторе выкашивались деревья в очень большом количестве, ну и, соответственно, когда вода стала подниматься, приливы вот весенние, стало всех топить. То есть потому что деревья, они, да, действительно, они высасывают большое количество влаги, и раньше никого не топило, не затапливало. А сейчас это целая проблема. Весна, половодье, ЧС, чрезвычайная ситуация и все соответствующее. Ну, как бы заниматься этим тоже, по сути, надо. Я все.
Можно сказать, меня слышно?
О, привет.
Здравствуйте. У меня пропал интернет и звук в начале. Я подготовила рисунки, хочу показать, вот какие у нас деревья в Рубцовске есть. Вот как раз про березы. Да, видно? Вот
Немного
такие
мутно.
у нас беленькие березы, получается. А еще в Рубцовске есть рябина. Вот такие ягодки. А потом у нас очень много яблонь. И весной все у нас цветет. Вот такие беленькие. Я не представилась, меня зовут Екатерина Протасова, я фотограф, может быть, если где-то было написано, и немножко рисую. Также у нас еще есть, ну, всякое озеленяют, получается, ирис, вот такие цветы у нас.
Да, у нас это основное.
И наши любимые вот такие одуванчики. Много везде у нас одуванчиков бывает. Ну, он как получается дикие цветы. Ну, в общем-то, не буду затягивать. У меня есть еще другие. Ну, пока все. Спасибо.
Those are beautiful. Is there a way that we could share them?
Ну, можно, наверное, да, сканировать. Ну, куда-то на почту, наверное.
I wonder for the tree species that are failing, if it is because they're not getting watered or if they might not be the most suitable for the climate. I'd be curious to see what species might be doing best. You mentioned the evergreens. Are those just less popular or favored by the volunteers that plant them? Or is it possibly they're just not the best for smaller areas if it's like a street tree?
Ну, смотрите, у нас деревья не прижились, потому что земля была как, ну, целинная такая, то есть очень твердая, жесткая. Возможно, ее надо было предварительно все-таки удобрять как-то. Мы этим не озадачились на тот момент. Ну, причину, ну, возможно, все-таки из-за именно качества земли, я так полагаю, что у нас мало очень прижилось. Вот, и, ну, как бы у нас опыта немного было, спросить особо не с кого, то есть мы делали по наитию сами, как знали, как у себя, допустим, в огородах садим, не получилось. А то, что касаемо хвойных, и да, я понимаю, что они громоздкие, достаточно большие, но просто из того списка, который был предложен у вас, получается, хвойные у нас садят, но это в основном по периметру, знаете, каких-то поселков, ну, микрорайонов, именно по периметру они, ну, в черте города, конечно, редко встречаются. А там у нас часто проходят ежегодно, во всяком случае, такие вот посадки. Плюс сейчас в городе, в черте города, вот, как сказала Екатерина показывала, у нас садят рябины, но рябина у вас не звучала, поэтому я не знаю, и яблоня тоже приживется или нет. У нас рябина и яблоня наиболее популярные. Ну, еще, конечно, тополь, но он как бы не совсем дерево. И плюс он постоянно ломается и пушится, это вообще не вариант. У нас в городе очень много тополей, это целая проблема весной вообще. То есть, ну, из того списка, что у вас был озвучен, вот, соответственно, только поэтому.
For the planting of the trees, I can send through David some visual like pamphlets that don't have much English on it. It's just visuals that are really good showing proper planting technique, and they're designed for volunteers. And it highlights the really important part, like making sure that the tree's not planted too deep and how much water the tree should receive. And then I'd be more than happy to provide as much information as possible, maybe videos that are really good online that demonstrate it. There are videos online that are questionable if you just do a regular YouTube search, but for the most part, they're pretty good. So I would love to help as much as possible. It's difficult being thousands of miles away.
Thank you, Tony, for your offering. And now we have a last speaker, Andrei Pervachuk. He has a little presentation about his projects back in Russia. Please, Andrei.
Меня слышно? Всем еще раз здравствуйте. Меня зовут Андрей Первачук, и я имел счастливую возможность в 2019 году посетить город GrantsPass. До этого, прям буквально за несколько дней до нашего отъезда к вам в GrantsPass, наш чудесный город посетил Дэвид, и он мог увидеть вот то место, которое вам сейчас на видео будут показывать, наш центральный парк в городе Рубцовске, как он выглядел до масштабной глобальной реконструкции. Видео немножко затормаживает, но это даже будет небольшим хорошим эффектом, чтобы рассмотреть все нюансы. В 2018 году наша общественная организация и несколько молодых активистов решили вот эту старую, очень сильно заросшую территорию превратить в некий молодежный парк, парк отдыха. Это была единственная, то есть как бы наша идея. И мы начали писать гранты, привлекать денежные средства, строить спортивные площадки, также обновлять, высаживать деревья. Но после визита в GrantsPass лично я, посмотрев, если я правильно помню, наличие 14 парковых зон только в маленьком GrantsPass, меня это очень сильно вдохновило. У вас есть целая парковая культура. Опять же, если я правильно вспомню фестиваль Winterfest, на котором мы тоже побывали, когда в какой-то выходной или будний день половина GrantsPass собирается, то есть как бы возле летней сцены и слушает музыку, вот это меня очень сильно вдохновило по приезду начать масштабную работу, чтобы эта территория, вот эти 2 гектара земли в нашем центральном парке преобразились. Нас услышали, очень большое количество жителей города Рубцовска нас поддержало, потому что для того, чтобы получить финансирование, было огромное голосование, и тысячи человек выбирали, то есть различные территории. И вот одна из территорий, то есть первое место, занял как раз вот наш парк, и с идеей сделать там большое пространство для того, чтобы люди могли отдыхать. И совмещать еще спортивный образ жизни. Я рассказал, что мы вначале начали со спортивных площадок. Меня поразило, что в GrantsPass есть, допустим, парковая зона, где есть
6, там 8 теннисных кортов. Мы были днем, мы спрашивали, зачем вам столько много, потому что у нас в Рубцовске не было ни одного до этого года. На что нам ответили, что то есть это делается для удобства в часы пик, когда приходит много людей, чтобы они не ждали. Соответственно, у нас пока есть одна теннисная площадка, у нас есть большой, даже можно сказать, самый лучший и самый большой пока в Алтайском крае скейт-площадка. И сейчас на территории, то есть вот северной части парка у нас стало очень много скамеечек, очень много мест, где можно просто отдохнуть. И, ну, не поверите, все это заработало прям сразу же. Практически, то есть после того, как мы уже завершали этап строительства, я прям сам присутствовал 4 месяца на стройке и контролировал все. Люди начали уже, то есть не дожидаясь завершения стройки, посещать этот парк. Огромнейшее количество молодежи, то есть туда пришло, потому что, то есть для них там появилось огромное увлечение. Но я начал и говорил о том, что у нас была идея создать молодежный парк, но, как показала практика, эта идея пришлась по вкусу абсолютно всем. Абсолютно все возрастные слои в этот парк приходят с маленькими детьми родители, просто пожилые люди пройтись, прогуляться и просто подышать свежим воздухом. На самом деле наш город достаточно зеленый. Действительно, в советское время, то есть было высажено очень много тополей, которые, то есть, выполняли свою, там, по сути, основную функцию, действительно, выкачивания, то есть, воды из земли, сточных вод. Но сейчас они уже, то есть, переживают себя и, да, действительно становятся хрупкими. И вот одна из, наверное, то есть, ну, как бы задач нашей общественной организации, вдохновленные непосредственно GrantsPass'ом, это точно и 100%, для того, чтобы заменять эти деревья, для того, чтобы вот таких парковых зон отдыха, я знаю, что, то есть, вот в той делегации, которая, то есть, планируется, тоже есть активисты, Лена, то есть, как бы, что у себя на микрорайонах тоже пытаются сделать, то есть, маленький островок вот такой вот парковой зоны. Поэтому, ну вот вкратце, это примерно у нас произошло вот так. Именно на этой территории, на территории этого парка мы хотели бы поставить как раз скульптуру Мишки, который бы, наверное, символизировал, то есть действительно, то есть как бы символ дружбы. Мы предположили, что этот Мишка должен отдавать дружеское 5, так сказать, и у него на гриве должна быть, ну, такая гравировка, сплав тех самых людей, которые когда-то начали историю побратимства двух городов. Нам показалось, что это ну, будет являться неким символом, и если позволите, то есть как бы отдать дань тем людям, которые на протяжении 30 лет сохраняют дружбу и вдохновляют, ну и меня в том числе, и всех, то есть кто побывал в GrantsPass'е, на какие-то ну, как бы небольшие микроподвиги. Мы очень сильно надеемся, что те люди, которые побывали и в России, мы с такими встречались и были в гостях, они тоже, то есть, вдохновились нашей культурой и продолжают, иначе, наверное, не было бы интереса эту дружбу городов со своей стороны. У меня все, я рад ответить на все вопросы, которые есть. Надеюсь, успели посмотреть видео.
Thank you, Andrei. If anyone have any questions to Andrei, we have a few more minutes until end of our program. Please go ahead and ask the questions.
Andrei, you sent us a drawing of a bear standing with his arms out and a raft as an idea for your bear sculpture. Is that still what you're looking at to do, or are you considering other ideas?
Нет, как раз это действительно была основная идея. эту идею, ну, как бы мы, можно сказать, то есть, ну, нашим активом, ну, разработали, придумали. Были как раз идеи и с земным шаром, и с мостами, но почему-то мы вот проголосовали именно за эту идею. Вот как раз Анна, потому что она является прекрасным дизайнером, нарисовала пока схематично вот этого мишку. И мы очень сильно думали, что, ну, как бы пандемия не наберет такой оборот, и вот эта делегация, которая должна была приехать в 2020 году, совместно с культурным сообществом GrantsPass, может быть, каким-то образом доработают идею, то есть там непосредственно вдохновятся каким увиденным, и то есть эта идея немножечко вообще даже перевоплотится во что-то другое. Мы открыты и, наверное, в первую очередь хотели бы, чтобы, ну, это не было какой-то, то есть только наша идея, это была совместная вместе с вами идея, и очень хотелось бы, конечно, чтобы вам это тоже в том числе понравилось.
Thank you. I don't know if you can see, I put on my screen on the right, the bear concept you sent us, and on the left is our sister city bear that Janet Higgins made some years ago. Just as interesting starting points.
Okay, sadly, our time is up, and now I hope it was a very interesting meeting. I hope many of you had the chance to learn something new and useful for the future of your professional development. And now it's time came to the end, and thank you for participating, and hope to see you again in near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you.
See you
Спасибо,
soon.
bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. It was glad to see all of you.
No, good to meet you all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.